This is the Toneboosters Fix 4 version 3, and it's a dynamic EQ. Now the ZL equalizer is my usual go-to dynamic EQ. So why, you may ask, do I need a second dynamic EQ? Well, the Fix 4 has features that the ZL EQ doesn't, and I think they complement each other very well. So in other words, I'm going to be keeping both of them. So what exactly do I like about the Fix 4? Let's have a look. Well, first of all, I like the fact that you got separate windows for the EQ and your dynamics, your compression, expansion. And speaking of the dynamics section, you're actually provided with 3 nodes for setting up your compression and expansion. This allows you to do both upwards and downwards compression and upwards and downwards expansion. Very flexible. The Fix 4 also does single band compression expansion, or if you want to call it broadband compression expansion. However, it does it in a way that you might not expect. We'll be coming back to this point. And what I would finally say, whilst some may bemoan the fact that the plugin isn't resizable, it does have a very handy alternative feature. So if we go to the EQ, left click, hold and drag, and this allows you to zoom in on that area, make some fine adjustments if need be, and you can get very close indeed. And to zoom back out full, you just left click anywhere in the window. You can also do this in the dynamic section as well. Left click, hold and drag, zoom right in and really be able to see what you're doing. And again, left click to zoom back out full. Okay, let's see what else is going on this plugin. So first of all, start with the EQ. When you have an EQ band highlighted, all these controls down here are for that band, including its dynamic section as well. The EQ is color coded, so if I switch to another one, you can see that these controls down here change color just to show you which EQ band you're working on. Okay, so let's start having a look at all these controls down here. The first one is a drop-down menu labeled SEC, which gives the impression sections, but it is just another place where you can highlight your various EQ bands. Next up, we have an on-off button for that particular band. As a matter of interest, another way you can turn off a band is go to its bubble, if you like, and right click on that and then left click to re-engage. So next up we have filter types, and as you can see, this is a sizable list. But what's going on in here is you have 2 basic low shelf types and 2 basic high shelf types and 2 bell types. With the filters, our low pass filters and our high pass filters, you can see you've got LPF 1, 2, 4 and 6. These numbers just represent varying degrees of filter steepness. The higher the number, the steeper the filter. Although you've got some unusual ones in here as well. Let's have a look at a couple of them. And we've got a rectangle. It may not be a shape you use very often, but it's there if you need it. Let's have a look at one more. And we've got spectral balance. And as you can see, you have control of a low shelf and a high shelf in the same band. So if you've got a bass heavy sound, you can use this to rebalance it by turning down the low frequencies and at the same time turning up the higher frequencies. Very handy. Okay, next 3, very familiar to you: frequency, gain and Q. Mode is just quite simply, you can switch between working on just the stereo, mid, side, left or right channels. And next to that we have a wet dry control just for this band. Okay, now we get to our dynamics section. By default, dynamics are normally turned off, and the first button of course turns it on. The dynamics are a hard knee type, but by hitting this button and you get a curve, more soft knee style. Next up we have attack and release. Now by default release is on auto release, but you can always switch that off and set your own release time, of course. As you would expect with dynamics, you got a makeup gain here as well. So the sidechain input is quite interesting because there are a lot of choices in here. Obviously you can work on normal stereo, but it can react to just say the mid, the side, the left or the right. Now this one is an unusual one. side over mid ratio. It does react differently as one that you might want to experiment with. And lastly, you've got 2 external sidechains to choose from as well. Okay, let's have a look at the 6 controls that we have at the bottom here. Starting on the left, we have a DC filter, which by default is on. Now, the next button is AP, which stands for automatic phase or auto phase. Okay, so here's the thing. The EQ is minimum phase as opposed to linear phase. However, if you engage this auto phase button, the plugin will choose which one of these is best suited to the EQ moves that you're making at that moment. And according to the manual, it does this dynamically. Now that gives the impression that it morphs between minimum and linear phase. I mean, the thing with this one is make a couple of EQ moves and switch it in and out, see if it's helping. If it's not, leave it off. Next, we have a drop down for the analyzer. Its default is left plus right sum, but you can also analyze the mid or the side separately, or you can quite simply turn it off if you don't want it on. And over to the right, we have an input gain, last one's an output gain, and an overall wet-dry control. So these are all your global controls. Okay, let's have a look and a listen to this thing in action. Let's start with some EQ. Going to be working on these overheads. Okay, so I'm going to change its mode to work on sides only. And we're going to do a high pass filter. Take the resonance off it. Okay, so we're just high passing the sides. Oh, that really tightens it up quite nicely. Let's have a listen to it momentarily without it. Back in. Yeah. Okay, let's enhance the bottom end. Let's bring in another EQ band. I'm going to make this a low shelf. I'm going to just affect the mid channel. So we're going to enhance the bottom end. Make sure it's not getting too loud. Master output gain. There we go. Yeah, good. And let's finally just add high shelf. All in all, nice EQ, easy to use, does everything you would expect of a digital EQ, and that's fine. So let's have a look at the dynamic side of things. So of course dynamic EQs are great for solving problems, but they're also great for enhancing what you've already got. And the Fix 4 is more than capable of doing all of the above. Okay, let's fix a problem in here. Well, I'm hearing a resonance in the snare that I don't particularly like, and it seems to be in around 1200 Hertz mark. So we're set up on band 3, let's have a go at that. Okay. Bring this down a wee bit. Working quite nicely. Bypass the band. And that's just enough to get rid of that annoying resonance. Okay, so let's do some enhancing. And of course, we're going to be using upward expansion for this. So let's enhance the top end of the snare. We're going to use a high shelf. We're not going to go too crazy on it, just enough to lift the snare each time the snare hits. Don't need to do too much, just enough. Also mentioned a little earlier that the Fix 4 does broadband compression expansion as well. Let's have a look at how to set that up and what's unusual about it. Well, first of all, we choose an EQ band. Now we're going to the filter type. Right at the bottom here, you got one called Broadband Gain. Now, what you got here is basically a volume control. You can turn all the frequencies up or down by the same amount. So that, of course, is a volume control. So for this to be dynamic, we need to turn on its dynamic section. And strangely enough, this has also introduced a bandpass filter. Let's play and let's have a listen to the difference this filter is making. No, you're absolutely right. It's making no difference whatsoever. So what's going on here is this bandpass filter is your sidechain. So whatever frequencies are inside your bandpass are what are going to set off the compression or expansion. Doing it this way means that you can really narrow in on certain frequencies to use for your compression or expansion. But you can also make it wide enough so that you got basically a normal compressor. Okay, let's get started. Compression is on, compression expansion. Okay. I'm going to position my sidechain there. And you can see the line dropping to show us that we're getting gain reduction. So really, our compression is reacting to just the kick. Let's move it along to around 200 Hertz. Now it's reacting to our snare, but it's a bit much. That's sounding good. A little bit of makeup gain. Let's hear before and after. So of course you will find a link in the description for this. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you being here. See you next time.